11% of adults have never used what? We're going to talk about it. It's kind of crazy. All the things adults haven't ever used. Technology has changed a lot of things. That's Jordan Davis right there. What My World Spins Around on 101.1 KRMD. Good morning to you. I'm Mason in the morning, broadcasting live on the radio and on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/KRMD Mason, and you can follow along. You can see what goes on inside the studio. Super exciting in there. Super exciting in there. Yeah, you can see the microphone and me, studio behind me. That's KMJJ. You got magic behind that. That's exciting stuff on Facebook. Gotta see it. Once again, facebook.com/KRMD Mason. Make sure you give me a like. Love it when you like me. Love it. Good morning from 4 degrees in Colorado. Stacy, yikes. That's my hometown if you don't know. 4 degrees. Or does that say -4? -4 degrees. Nice. What's the temperature here? We're actually pretty cold today. I think it's like 35. 35 in Louisiana, in Shreveport. How about that? Well, we're talking about the way things have changed. And they've changed very quickly. And basically, technology has made some things that were pretty darn common. I mean, as common as it gets, made those things obsolete. For example, 16% of adults have never used a physical map. Never used a map. Can you imagine? I used a map. I've used a map. Used them when I was a kid, of course. When's the last time I used a map? Now you got to think about it a little bit. But there is a comprehensive new survey for the use of technology that came out, and it talks about all kinds of things. And you got to think about what an adult is now. An adult is probably, if we're talking about a very specific criteria that makes you an adult, it's probably, at least in America, turning 18, right? An 18-year-old. And if you think about it, it's 2023. So what is an adult? Anybody who was born before 2005? Is that right? I'm not sure everybody's an adult. I'm not sure about that. But that's interesting. I mean, anybody who was born before 2005 is an adult. Anybody born after 2005, still considered a kid, I guess. But yeah, 16% of adults have never used an actual map. Get this too, 11% of adults have never used a phone book. A real one? An actual phone book? And I'll tell you, I grew up in Denver. Our phone books were like thick. It was like a half a foot thick. And now they still have the phone books. I see it. I think my mom and dad still get the phone book. But it's like this little thing, this little tiny thing. And the issue used to be huge. So I get that. 11% never used a phone book. Here's one on the other side of things. 69% of Americans say that they have never used a telegram. I'm not quite sure what a telegram is. I know I've seen them. I've heard of them. I mean, what do? You call up. If you have information, you can text me, 320-KRMD, 320-5763, or put it in the comments. But I'm not 100% sure what a telegram is. So I'm part of the 69% that has never done a telegram. I've seen people get them in movies, and it's like words on paper, right? And somebody brings it to your house. I don't even really know what it is. So I am definitely one of those. But actually 5% say that they still use telegrams. How? Where would you do this? And it does say that, yes, old school telegrams do still exist and you can still use them. Kind of weird to me. 7% of adults, get this, 7% of adults have never used mail. They have never sent a letter in the mail, ever, in their entire life. 55% say that they still do, which is good. But only 55% seems very small. I don't even know what to say there. 11% of adults have never owned a landline phone. Ooh, landlines. I was an early adopter of the cell phone. I'm not sure I've ever owned a landline myself. I used a landline when I was a kid, but I do not believe I have ever owned a landline. I don't think so. 18% of us have never used dial-up internet. I used it. It was annoying. That whole thing. You got mail. And then it would get kicked off anytime someone picked up the phone. It was a terrible idea. I don't know why internet picked up. 14% of adults have never used a payphone. Wow, never used a payphone. Makes sense, though. I think the last payphone in New York was ripped out last year. They used to have something like 18,000 payphones in New York City, and now they have zero. Zero payphones. Pulled them all out. That's kind of crazy. 6% of adults have never watched a DVD. That's stupid. That's stupid. That means I'm getting old, because I remember when the DVD came out, it was like the peak of technology. It was the newest, coolest thing. I couldn't believe how amazing the DVD was. Now they're obsolete. Definitely getting old. 16% of adults say they've never played music on a vinyl record player. That's kind of interesting because my daughter's really big into it now. She has her own record player, and she's got records from my dad and my stepmom and my mom, and she buys records, goes to a record store. So that's a little different. That's really coming back. The actual vinyl record players, that's kind of neat. 22% of adults have never played a video game at an arcade. Are there arcades anymore? Where would you go? Are there arcades? Do you know of one? 320-KRMD or put it in the comments. 10% of adults have never used a printer at home. That's crazy. That I actually feel like that. I hate using the printer at home. My printer runs out of ink all the time, constantly out of ink. I wish I didn't use a printer. I want to throw my printer out back. I want to office space my printer. 15% of adults have never used a check. That's something. You've never used a check. You've never had to write a check. I remember in school, we had to have check writing class and put it in there. And you had to write exactly like this. And I got graded wrong for not putting a line after the cents or something like that. That's funny. Never used a check. 21% of adults have never used a typewriter. Seems like more than that. I did use a typewriter. My typing class in junior high was on actual typewriters, which I thought I was way too young to be doing that. I was like, we have computers. Why are we not using computers? I don't need a typewriter. The things that get all caught up like that. It's so dumb. Typewriters. 9% of adults have never owned a dictionary. Huh. I don't know if I've owned one. I had them when I was a kid. Does that consider... I mean, I don't think as an adult I've ever bought a dictionary. I don't think. Just look it up on your phone. Google it. 16% of adults have never used a road map. We said that one. 15% of adults have never purchased a newspaper. That's interesting. Never purchased a newspaper. That's huge. 11% of adults have never used the phone book. Wow. All these things. How many people don't do that? 15% say they still do use a phone book. 23% say that they do still purchase newspapers. Oh, and this is good. 55% still say they use the mail. Which you have to use the mail, don't you? I don't know. This is interesting to me. I just can't believe how many things have changed. I mean, from landlines and DVDs, pay phones, writing a check. Like writing a check is basically obsolete. I mean, how are these people paying for stuff? I know I'm old now. I gotta be. I still have a checkbook. It's in the car. No, it's not in the car. Don't go steal it. It's not in the car. You can't use it. I don't know. I guess I'm getting old. I thought you could still write letters. I don't use a map, though. Everybody uses maps, though. Everybody in the world with their navigation in their car, their phone, whatever. But no maps. Zero maps. Crazy.